Peter, let's talk about migrations. Tell me about
All right. Yeah.
tell me about you and your history with Buildkite and migrating to Buildkite.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now I'm a solution architect with Buildkite. I work here, but before that, I was a customer. I was manager, but individual contributor. We called it manager doer. And so I had a team, and we owned Buildkite, and we ran CI/CD for a large e-commerce company. Um, and I've been a release engineer, SRE, DevOps, the build guy for quite a while, and so got to run Buildkite at a decent scale. We had a few thousand users and uh, many pipelines, tens of thousands of deploys to Kubernetes every month. So got to do some real CI/CD stuff with Buildkite, and that's my
That's
background.
awesome.
Yeah.
What was your system back then? What did you migrate from?
Yeah, so we actually had multiple systems. So Buildkite was a bit of a tool consolidation play. Um, we had GitLab CI and we had Jenkins, and so primarily we migrated from GitLab, 100% over to Buildkite. We're having a lot of stability issues and really needed to have a very highly scalable tool, and Buildkite is hyperscale. So that was what we needed. And yeah, we still had Jenkins. We still ran some Jenkins. And yeah, I call it the no man left behind migration, because it's a bit of a play on words. We actually left a lot of things behind in Jenkins. We still left it running, but we were very successful with our migration and what we're able to
Great,
do with it.
great. Okay, that's a great segue into techniques to migrate. So I know you've given this quite a bit of thought. So tell us about how you think folks should approach CI migrations and the many techniques they can use.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, first thing I think for any kind of migration you're going to do, um, don't be afraid. There's a lot of uncertainty around migrating. Can we do this? Do we have time? Everybody is, they've got a full roadmap. They're working full time jobs. Everybody on your team doesn't have all these hours and days and weeks to migrate. And you don't want to slow down. You don't want to lose momentum executing to your roadmap, right? Even if you are a platform team, you're not developing those features, every day for your iOS app or for your e-commerce website. You still have a ton of stuff to do, and migration is not on the list, right? You don't have time. You didn't plan that most of the time, but it actually can be done. You can work this into your schedule. You can make the time, and the ability to migrate can really help you and free up a lot of time. It feels like you're underwater, right? Like, I'm on fire, I'm underwater. Those two don't really mix, but you can be on fire and underwater at the same time. But you can do it. You don't be afraid to kind of make this step or plan this migration out. Um, yeah, the other piece I would say, in addition to like not being afraid, is get some of those facts right. Find out what's it going to take for us to migrate. Do do that work to analyze your pipelines. And I say analyze, I don't want to get too complicated or anything. How many pipelines do you have? How much custom code is there? A lot of times, this information is not really well known, right? There's maybe some tribal knowledge. People have a sense of it. The platform team, the DevOps team might be feeling like there's just a ton of stuff to migrate. But it can be an area of uncertainty that contributes to reticence to migrate, right? So find out what it would take. How many pipelines do you have? What would you be rewriting? Try to scope it out. It doesn't have to be a perfect estimate, but figure out if it's going to take 1 year or 10 years, or hopefully less, hopefully somewhere in
Yeah.
between.
So what are some reasons folks might want to migrate? Let's start there.
Yeah. We have these systems, CI systems, CI/CD systems, right? And they maybe were chosen at some point in the past, and those decision criteria don't apply anymore, right? And technology is moving so fast, and a lot of the time, even if you've made a good decision that's durable, right, and it carries you years into the future, things have changed, right? You don't have the same constraints. You can make a different decision there's other stuff happening in the market, right? There's other tools out there. There's your product has changed, right? Not all those things apply. So you might consider a migration because some constraints are lifted. You might consider a migration because you've got a high maintenance burden with your current system. As much as we invest in a system, or when we choose to build or buy a CI system or a large tool like this, that's a big part of your software delivery organization. Stuff builds up over time that just adds to maintenance overhead and is a burden on the team that's maintaining it. And if you can improve the situation of that team, you can improve the level of service that they're providing to the rest of the organization and really gain a big productivity boost.
Yeah. Okay, so let's say you've decided to migrate. What are some strategies you can use to approach the migration? Because it could be a big, scary project otherwise.
Yeah. So I I think of a few different approaches that I kind of categorize, and again, I gave them silly names. So No Man Left Behind is one, and then Double Secret Migration is another one. Big Rocks First Migration and Phone a Friend Migration. So I think let's talk first about that. No Man Left Behind, and talk about what's involved there, and I can share more
Yeah,
about that
let's talk
approach.
about No Man Left Behind migration. So tell me about what, since this is a strategy you've personally experienced. Let's ground it in that story.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, No Man Left Behind is actually the opposite. We're going to leave things behind. Do you really need to migrate 100% of your pipelines? This is part of that data gathering exercise, right? You look at your pipelines, you see what's really there. Do they all need to move? If you have 10,000 pipelines, are you really struggling? Are you having maintenance issues? Are you having scaling issues with all 10,000? Or could you take the top 80% and move them over, or the 50% that you could move over, and keep some in a kind of a legacy mode? Keep the lights on is another thing we talk about, where you could run these in the existing system and leave them there. And still, by chopping off your kind of most difficult pipelines, or the majority of them, you can save yourself a lot of maintenance issues. You can just avoid the scaling problem, right? You're sidestepping it and you're leaving some things in that old system. The other piece here, where you leave these things behind, you can think about, is there another team or other people in my organization who might be able to maintain this system while your platform team, or maybe the principal engineers, staff engineers, are going to do the new system and build that out? You can actually split ownership of the systems. And this was my experience when I was at a e-commerce giant. Buildkite was the new thing. We moved a bunch of stuff over there, but we had a really excellent operations team, and we were able to give them ownership of Jenkins, right? They ran it, they maintained it, they upgraded it. They had run books, they had documentation, they had all these things. It actually ran really well, right? It's kind of, maybe be a little surprised that, guess what? You bring in the new tool, you bring in Buildkite, it's amazing. All the new stuff's going there. But the things that you're leaving in the old system, you might ask yourself, why do we even leave, right? Well, you left because you were bursting at the seams of scale. But now, guess what? Jenkins, the old system, it isn't a problem anymore. It's managed, it's handled. You're not adding new things to it, and that can be a really excellent experience for both teams and for the org as
Yeah,
a whole.
yeah. So basically, to summarize, the No Man Left Behind migration is a strategy that you look at when you're seriously considering migrating everything, and your answer to that is reconsider whether you really do need to migrate everything. Perhaps you can, in fact, leave a few things behind. But to do that, you'll need to be selective of what you leave. Have a good operations team, ensure that it is in a good end of life mode, so to speak. Um, and that way, you've got a good you can get developer customer teams to migrate at their own pace without having to worry about loss of a previous system entirely.
Yeah, exactly. I like to talk about during any migration, if you can have your pipeline running in the old system and the new system and try to compare those apples to apples, right? You want to hold what you're changing to be
Yeah.
limited. You don't just want to cut over and say, that's it. I've moved over. There's no going back, right? We hear from the Amazon principles, right? The don't go through a one-way door, right? Try to limit the amount of times you do that. So if you can have both systems running, again, given cost constraints, giving resource constraints, all of those things, but that's
Yep.
the ideal, right? Bring the new system up, see how it's working. Okay, I moved my pipeline over. Is it really working well? It's kind of like we talk about a blue green deployment strategy or Netflix's red black deployment strategy. It's the same kind of thing, but you're just applying it to your
Yeah.
CI
Yeah.
pipelines.
Love it. Love it. Okay. So let's talk about your other strategies. Let's talk about perhaps the double secret migration. Um, Tell me about what that looks like.
Yeah, so double secret migration. This is actually based on a Buildkite customer that I got to see what they had done and learn about their story. It's really great. They decided um, upfront that they were going to invest the resources in building a tool, writing the code really to migrate things and translate from their prior system to the new system, which was Buildkite. And uh, I won't say they didn't tell anyone, but they could have not told anyone and just kept things running in the old DSL, the domain specific language. And then under the covers, they're automatically converting that to Buildkite's DSL. And so it was an upfront investment to write this tool, but with Buildkite's dynamic pipelines, you can do it, right? You can take a source or an abstraction, which is just another DSL, and convert that to Buildkite DSL to our YAML format and do it with a dynamic pipeline. And you can do it on the fly. So when the webhook triggers, GitHub says there's been a change to a repo. Your Buildkite pipeline starts up and says, "Oh look, there's a Circle CI YAML or there's a Jenkins file or something," and it can convert that and change it to a Buildkite pipeline on the fly. You can save that as an artifact, so you're not doing it completely in the dark, but you're able to say um, that you can see that result of the pipeline that you've generated dynamically. And again, don't keep it a secret. Tell people you're going to do this, right? But that's kind of the joke that you could keep it a secret and it could be very successful and it could work well.
Great. Yeah. And the good thing with this is the disruption to your end developer is pretty minimized or avoided pretty much altogether. Um, yeah, I love it. And it's great that Buildkite's dynamic pipelines lets you this feature that is so core to the product itself also happens to be really great at helping you migrate, which is really great. Okay, tell me about your next strategy, the big rocks first migration.
Yeah. Big rocks first. The idea is take your most difficult pipeline, your most challenging one. It's that mono repo that takes an hour plus, right? It's the most complex pipeline and move that first. And that can be challenging. It is a big rock to carry. And, we talk about rock sizes or t-shirt sizes in Jira and some of these bug tracking tools like Linear. But, um, you know, moving that first, you're going to learn a ton. You're going to find out where are the sharp edges as I move to Buildkite? What are the things that I uncover that I learn about my existing system? What was I using? And then it should be all gravy after that, right? Now that you've done your most complicated pipeline, the other ones just become easier. You've got the experience kind of with all the parts of Buildkite that you're using, everything that you were using, extensively in your old tool, and you're able to move that over. And, that's one way to approach it. But I think of this like there's small rocks first migration too. You could take small, less consequential pipelines and move them over. So this one is called big rocks, but again, it's really about your appetite for risk and what you're going to do, how much disruption you want for your developer customers, what they can handle. Because it's totally valid to say, do the small rocks first, because you'll learn that way too, right? Each one, you'll learn something different and you'll get experience, you'll build it up. People will become more comfortable with the new tool. So it's really about picking what kind of rocks you want to carry over
That's
first,
great.
right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. It feels like it's figure out what you really want to learn about first and what you want to build confidence in first, more like. And then once you do that, you can figure out whether you want to do small rocks first or big rocks first. Um, cool. Big rocks probably gives you confidence in your ability to move this specific pipeline or like complex things versus small rocks gives you the confidence in the feature set and the tooling and that sort of stuff. Okay.
Yeah, you know you can let your team makeup inform
Mhm.
some of these decisions. There really isn't a one size fits all, but you think about, okay, I've got my platform team, they're super senior. They're all principals, they're staff eng, they've been doing this for 20 years. Maybe big rocks first makes sense, right? Because that's how they're going to learn. They're going to find out they can carry those big rocks on their back, right? But maybe you've got a more junior team. They haven't used Buildkite before. It's new to them. CI is really relatively new to them, and they're not familiar with multiple tools, multiple different DSLs. Maybe small rocks make sense given the team maturity and what they're willing to handle. And think about your team. What are they going to be comfortable with? You want them to enjoy this if they can, right? You want this to be interesting work. You don't want it to be, a bad experience. You want them to come out of this migration with lessons learned, with experience with the tool, all of those things. A migration can be a great thing for a team to bring them closer together, right? They're going through this experience. They've got this. They can put it on their resume, right? If you're the manager and you're thinking about how do I help my team, how do I give them something that's a really good learning experience and is going to again upskill them, right? You were using that old CI tool from 10, 20 years ago, and now you're going to come to Buildkite and it's a modern tool used by tech companies, some of the leading tech companies in the world, and you're going to give that to your team. It's a great
Yeah,
gift.
yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's go to the very last strategy you had, which was phone a friend migration. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so this one, phone a friend. Hey, you're Buildkite, we're your friends. We we can help you migrate, and we would love to do that. It's there's a cost associated, but it can really be worth it when you look at your roadmap, you look at your team's time. We can accelerate it, and historically, I've seen customers come in, and the way the process works, we get all the paperwork done. These aren't necessarily startups where you just go down the hall or get somebody on Slack and say, hey, we want Buildkite to look at our pipelines. Sometimes there's real process involved. We need to get a background check, we need to get people authorized, sign NDAs to be able to see your code. And then when we look at your pipelines, we figure out a plan, we work together. We're going to meet a few times and talk about what the process will be like, and then you can give us a package of all your pipelines. Again, we work on it in collaboration with you, but we're doing that heavy lifting for you. And then we pass it back to you. And now maybe all your Jenkins pipelines are converted to Buildkite pipelines, and you can get them running. You're off to the races. What I've seen in my experience with our Buildkite migration team, they're amazing. We have some number of thousands of pipelines we can do per week, right? And we'll quote that to you, give you an estimate of how long we think it'll take. But as far as I know, we've always beat our estimates. So we're pretty good at getting done. And once we get moving, we really kind of pick up steam and we're able to get your migration done sooner. So this can be a very effective way to migrate because you don't have any time off your roadmap. You just spend some money, make it happen, and we get it done for you very quickly. And, like I said, usually we beat the hours that we're going to quote.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This seems like the lowest lift on your team. Great. So, and obviously, all of these have we've had at BuildKite, we've had customers go down all of these different paths. Um, are there any particular migration stories that stick out to you? Particularly good ones, particularly bad ones?
Yeah, well, on that theme of the, beating estimates, I would say particularly good working with our migration team. It's very fast and it's very smooth. Um, you know, Buildkite obviously has a bunch of experts in Buildkite. And so, in addition to that expertise, we have a lot of experience seeing other tools out there: Jenkins, Circle CI, GitHub, all of these things. We've got a lot of experience with those. People who work on CI tend to have worked on it before Buildkite was around, or they've worked at other companies. And so we've really got some great experts. And so, as a particularly good migration story, you know, seeing your migration happen faster, that's amazing. You know, that feeling of I'm leading a platform team, or this is my area of responsibility, and I can go to my leadership and say, we beat the timeline. We did it faster. We got things done. People are unblocked quicker. That's a great experience. And you know, to have that happen, it's a wonderful experience in your organization, right? Where you can take a project, get it done sooner. We've all done software. Everything timelines lag on, feature count goes down, right? We have to cut things off the scope. We know what that's like, but you can have a successful migration and have it done in record time. So that's a real successful example.
Any
Um,
customers come to
I think,
mind? Obviously, we can't name names, but
yeah, I mean, you know, customers. I'm thinking of customers in the
Mhm.
healthcare space, customers in e-commerce, those kinds of things. You know, uh, the other one I'm thinking of recently, I was actually speaking to a customer. You know, I think earlier this week, they were saying they made the decision to move to Buildkite, but their migration took longer than they thought, and so they actually purchased Buildkite. They had it, but they didn't do the migration right away. They waited, and it took about a year, but they had things in place. They were able to move at their own pace. It's kind of the opposite story of that very fast with Buildkite migration services getting done in record time. Time was not the thing for them, right? It was their risk appetite, not disturbing their developer customers, keep those features flowing, keep software being delivered. And so for them, just having Buildkite there and being able to migrate at their own pace, that was their success story. And you know, they said it. They're like, you're probably not going to give us a free trial for a year. We wish we could, but we can't give you a free trial for a year. But if you buy Buildkite and you're committed to migrating, you can go at your own pace. You can start to move at a pace that makes sense. Move your pipelines over a little bit at a time, and you pay for what you use. Right? You're able to do that. We're able to accommodate that with our enterprise pricing.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that overview of the different migration strategies. Phone a friend, phone Buildkite, and we'll help you migrate. The big rocks first, or more like pick the size of rocks first. Could be big rocks, could be small rocks first. Migration, where you're able to run some things in parallel for a little bit and move things over one by one, just to de-risk the migration at a pace that you're comfortable with. The double secret migration strategy, which is entirely transparent to the end developer, where you kind of, with Buildkite's dynamic pipelines, you've got a system that basically you've written once, but you run it in multiple different CI systems, and you can swap CI systems behind that sort of thing. And the no man left behind migration, which is really to reconsider whether you do want to do migrate everything off at one go, or whether you want things in the keep the lights on mode or end of life mode. So thanks for that. Thanks for that overview. Um, Once you've migrated, what's life like on the other side?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. It is so good. Yeah, I've maintained a lot of these systems, and I talk to people. It really it's one of the best parts of my job when I talk to somebody who is dealing with Jenkins. They're dealing with scale issues. You know, I ask them, so what's going on with Jenkins? What are the problems you're facing? And a common answer, unfortunately, is downtime. And it's 2025. You know, how is that something that you're still dealing with, right? Like, are we really facing downtime with Jenkins, or these complicated upgrades and plugins that don't work, and you have to limit or restrict what plugins can be used because they crash the system? You know, Jenkins, for me, I've been very successful with Jenkins running CI, but I think it's starting to show its age. It really starts to, again, burst at the seams when you hit those scale limitations. And again, other customers I've talked to, how's your Jenkins? Tell me about what you're running. How's it working? Oh, I have 30 plus Jenkins controllers, right? That is just I can't imagine, and you're patching them and upgrading them and getting paged late at night, off hours. I've been there having to fix Jenkins. So with Buildkite, a lot of that maintenance, a lot of that headache is just off the table, right? Buildkite runs the control plane for you. We have a hybrid SaaS. We've got an amazing support team that's going to support you. Um, Again, a modern tool with dynamic pipelines. You can write your pipelines in any programming language of your choice, right? Bash, Python, Ruby, Rust, Go, whatever, you can write your pipelines in your team's primary coding language. And you don't have to learn yet another DSL. You can just translate it, right? And you can write real code. You can unit test your pipelines and confirm that they do what they are supposed to do, right? That they come out the way you expect. It's a beautiful new world. And so life on the other side of that migration is fantastic. It's hard to describe if you haven't kind of lived through that transition. But yeah, for me and my team, the things that we got to work on were more interesting problems, right? We started to look at developer experience, right? It wasn't just maintenance and things are falling down and we're trying to fix them. And, we took surveys before, after, all during the process of migration with our old tools. And the results change. You see people who are frustrated with CI, frustrated with the platform team, they're blocked from doing their work. And then you see those survey results change, right? Now your developer customers are, they're not blocked, they're just, yeah, CI works good, I don't have time for your survey. That's one of my favorite ones, right? The responses go down because people don't have complaints, right? Or you start to see the nature of the complaints change. Like, when I run a job with this very obscure parameter that only I use, then the display is off, and it's like, so those are the kind of things you're like, all right, that's a really interesting problem that I can try to solve, or that one of my platform engineers can try to figure out. So yeah, life on the other side is, it's really good. And when I meet people that are dealing with those Jenkins headaches, it just makes me smile, because if we can get them Bill Kite, I know their life is going to be better. Their team's lives are going to be better. And then that has that impact, that ripple effect of all the developers in your org now have happy platform engineers, not grumpy platform engineers. And they're working on interesting things and solving problems and accelerating your software delivery. So that's what gets me up every day and makes me really excited to tell people about Buildkite.
Great. And on that note, thank you. Thanks, Peter. I think we're good. Yay.
Awesome.